here, man. Alright, what's going on, man? We live. Welcome back. This is the Patreon live stream for October 8th, 2019, man. We here. I'm sorry I'm a little late. Let me get the music off a little bit. I'm a little late. Got like 5 minutes of work I had to finish, but we here now, though. Got 6 people watching. Shit, man. We here. What's going on? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello, Nathan, man. Hello, Martha, Anna. Hello, DJ, man. How you doing? Oh, shit. We down to 4. What did I say, huh? What did I say wrong, huh? Oh, we down to 2. What happening? What happening, man? Come back. I'm gonna be nicer. See, one of them came back. I mean, yes, ma'am. You know it. We're the professional lesbian. We here. Anna says, hey, everybody, I cancel a visit to the doctor to get on the stream. It's better than the doctor. It's a dope. Wow, it means a lot, baby. Thank you so much. Dude, first of all, let me answer a question that DJ has. Because I posted a story today. He says, do you think buying that graphic glove was worth it? And he's talking about this thing with the 2 fingers that you might have seen other artists use. And let me say, man, she was totally worth it. By the way, let me pop out of the chat and let me fuck out of here with the statistics. Check the statistics, man. So if you go to eBay, I think it's like a finger glove painting or something. Dude, that shit is totally worth it. Like, oh yeah, here it goes. It costs like $1 or something. And it just kind of makes everything easier on your tablet and just kind of like moving with your hand. And you don't end up, if you have oily, sweaty hands like me, you end up fucking hurting the tablet. And all your tablet is fucking sweaty and shit. So buy one of these. Do yourself a favor. Fucking China, man. Fucking $1. It's worth it. Anyway, I got some things to talk about today. So let's get to it. I'm super proud, man. You guys send me some of your work. I got a lot of stuff to critique. By the way, let me just check real fast if everything is working. You know what? I'm not gonna check. I'm not gonna become insecure now. If anybody has any questions, please write me in the chat. I'm gonna be here to answer them. I have some notes for today. Anna says, that's glove very sexy. Oh, thank you, baby. I think I'm the one making it sexy, but she may just be naturally sexy. All I'm saying is if anybody else put it, I'm not sure if they're gonna be as sexy as me. You know what I'm saying? DJ says, but it for Procreate, and Procreate doesn't make hand inking. What? Dude, DJ making all types of mistakes, man. I can't understand what you're trying to say. I use it both for the iPad and the Wacom because any surface that's like a tablet is just kind of hard with your hands to kind of move. Especially on the iPad, because the iPad, and by the way, I talked about this before, but let me pull out my iPad real quick. Oh, do I even know where my oh yeah. Anna says I'll buy it only for the selfie. You should. By the way, I talked about it before. The thing that I have on top of my iPad is actually matte. It's a matte surface, so it's actually easier for my hand to move as well. So when you add this on top of the fucking surface of the iPad, it's just moi, you know what I'm saying? Nathan says, oh, Reap, I'm second to last. Might have to watch this later. Oh, shit. Okay, I'm going to start with Nathan then. I'm going to start out. You know what? That's kind of smart, though. We might start with the people that are here. But first, I kind of wanted to talk about my iPad experience real quick. Because I actually did my first iPad portrait the other day. And I kind of wanted to mention some things, guys, because some people have been asking me. Actually, Christine, what am I even searching? Oh yeah, Christine asked me for that, which is how do you go about painting a portrait in Procreate? Because I haven't really done that before. So I was kind of, to be honest, I kind of finished it in Photoshop because I'm still kind of a noob in rendering in Procreate. But some of the things that I've kind of learned is to hold on, let me do that shit with my ears. Some of the things that I've learned is to try to not completely recreate the experience that you have in Photoshop to create it in Procreate. Like, I have some people asking me, like, when are you gonna do your brushes in Photoshop to use them in Procreate? And the thing is, even though I love my brushes in Photoshop, I don't think if I even get like deep into Procreate, I'll be using the same brushes. Like I think you shouldn't try to recreate the same experience that you have in Photoshop and a graphics tablet to try to recreate it in Procreate, because it's completely different. Like, you should embrace the difference and actually search for another way to do it, you know? So I spend a lot of time looking at other artists and kind of like how they're doing it, and I think it's really important to try to recreate the thing that the artists are doing, but not to completely recreate their technique. I don't know if that makes any sense, but let me show you something that's been really useful watching. If you go to Loish, like, she's one of my favorite artists. She actually has these clips. Let's watch this clip real quick. I hope I don't get banned on YouTube, but she's using actually Procreate, and you know, she's sharing her process, and you can kind of see how she starts out the sketch really really loosely, and then just kind of like, let me play it again, really loosely, and then just kind of works it on top, which is kind of like a little bit different than what I do in Photoshop. And then with the colors, she uses like some completely different brushes than I think she uses in like Photoshop and Wacom. All I'm saying is you should try to embrace, look at that, like she's basically working on top of a sketch with another sketch. I don't know, man, it's completely different. All I'm trying to say is, because I kind of felt bad for Christine, because she said she had some problems and she couldn't really sit because some health issues and stuff, and she said that, you know, she really wants me to teach her how to render in Procreate. All I'm saying is, don't rely too much on what other people say. Like, anything is possible, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can paint with anything, you can create beautiful effects with anything. It's all about the practice. And I remember back in the day, you know, with even with like traditional sketching and stuff, and adding stuff in Photoshop, like, nobody was doing that, but then all of a sudden it became kind of mainstream and everybody started doing it. So everything is super uncool until it becomes cool, you know, and somebody figures out how to do it. So trust in yourself and trust in the process that, you know, you can come up with cool stuff. So if you believe that you can, like, I'm telling you, man, you can do amazing stuff with any brush, like an ink brush, fucking soft brush, you know. And I'm extremely judgmental and fucking extreme, and I'm always like, yo, this is the way, this is not the way. And I think sometimes you shouldn't even be listening to me, you know what I'm saying, and kind of rely on your own feelings. So I've kind of realized as a teacher and a fucking mentor, or whatever the fuck I am right now, I'm here to teach you more the general stuff about painting, and the details are kind of like up to you. You know, I can still share, you know, my experience with the tools and the details, but I think overall you should be your own person, your own artist, and you should make those decisions for yourself, like what brushes to be using and stuff. And if you want to emulate me, you know, go ahead and do that. You know, I'm not against that as well. All I'm saying is, don't think that that's the only way to do it. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of ways, and just practice. I hope that makes sense. So for Procreate, I always start out with kind of like this loose sketch. I think I'm using this brush that I actually got from Loish, but it was actually paid, and I don't think it's really worth it. Yeah, I mean, it's a good brush, but you know, there's some free ones that are good as well. So I'm kind of starting out with some super loose gesture sketches, kind of like figuring out the proportions and stuff. Then I dropped opacity as always, and actually I've been experimenting with a different brush. So for now, I've been using the dry brush, and I think the new one that I've been experimenting with to try to do some inking is, so the first one is, if you go under ink, it's called the dry ink, and this one is under calligraphy, and it's called the shell brush. So it's really beautiful to kind of recreate this really interesting kind of textures for the sketch. And another really amazing thing that I like about Procreate is, if you go under the color balance, you can actually make your sketch like super red, like extremely easy. And what I found about in Photoshop, if you go into Photoshop and you try to color balance something that's black, it doesn't really work. Like, you go to do that, you know, it doesn't really work. But if you go to Procreate and you bump it up to red, and you make the sketch red, it actually makes it like, I don't know, it creates this really beautiful effect that I've kind of been experimenting with, where the lines are super red, and it kind of looks like there's something underneath there, you know what I'm saying? Like usually beginners who have these super black lines and everything will look, you know, kind of amateurish, and I've been really trying to play with the style more, so you can kind of see how the red lines create that effect. Nathan says that's what actual our professors need to tell their students rather than forcing their preference onto them and constraining them. Yeah, totally agree, man. Like that's the whole thing why I didn't really agree with art school in the beginning, is because I really want to do my own thing, and I see so many artists on Instagram doing their own thing and kind of, you know, getting the recognition that they deserve because they came up with that shit. So I think it's okay for you to emulate them, and I think it's even okay for you to take that and, you know, develop your own thing. But just don't forget that it takes a lot of practice, you know. And sometimes I feel like during the live streams and during the critiques, I kind of make it look super easy, you know, and I make it look like, you know, as if you were supposed to know that shit in like an hour or something. And it's gonna take fucking years. Like, even though I'm here and I'm here to help you and to guide you and stuff, I really feel like, you know, you can't really get there unless you paint, you know, that thing with the 10,000 hours. Like, if you don't put in that work, it's not gonna happen. But anyway, enough with the rants. DJ says, were you not that confident in Procreate that you had to recreate it in Photoshop because image 1 looks different to image 2? Yeah, actually I was totally not confident. But actually what's funny is, why can't I go back though? Actually what's funny is that they were both created in wait, let me open it again. They were both created in Procreate, actually. Like, this one is also created in Procreate, but actually I started it again. So I first created this one, and then I erased it, and I created a new one. And then, because I don't have to save the new one, actually I have this, but this is completely in Procreate. So I'm pretty comfortable with drawing in Procreate. This one is also done in Procreate. So I'm pretty comfortable with getting it to this stage. But anything past that, I think there's a little bit of Procreating here too, but now it's you know, the finishing touches are in Photoshop. And the reason for that is because in Procreate it's really hard to work with big brushes. Like my technique and my whole mentality is to be using big shapes and then kind of go into smaller shapes, and you can kind of see all professional artists doing it. And even Loish, like, something that I've been really fascinated with is, if you look at Loish's work, I've been really fascinated with this one piece. I swear I'm gonna get to some critiques, man. I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention this because I feel like it's important. So this is kind of like one of the pieces that I was really fascinated with. I spent so much time looking at it, like the last couple of days. Like this, I'm pretty sure it's created in Procreate. But even if it's not, I believe you can create it in Procreate. It's all about, like, if you look at it really closely, like, it has the perfect combination between soft and hard and texture and non-texture. Like it looks super simplified, but at the same time it looks super rendered. And I don't know, man, like, I'm trying to learn that shit, you know, myself, so I can hopefully teach it to you one day, but I'm still not on that level. So hopefully one day. Dude, this is the worst fucking mentor shit ever. Like, you know, I'm sitting here like, hey, I hope one day I'll be able to know it myself so I can teach you. But yeah, we're moving forward though. We just getting better. So that's pretty much for the process with the Procreate and Photoshop. I will try to push myself to render more in Procreate, but it's you know, it's kind of hard with me, you know, getting the likes and shit, because now that I've kind of trapped myself in being this you know, popular artist on Instagram, it's kind of like I can't really post anything shitty, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I always tell people, man, like, use this time where, you know, you're still a beginner. Like, those are your best art years. Like, they're not your best career years or your best enjoyment or anything, but they're the best years to experiment. So while you're still in that stage that nobody really cares about you, as sad as that sounds, you can use it, you know, to your advantage and actually explore. So even though I'm always talking about, you know, focus more on the structure and do fucking lines and shit, you should do that, but also try to explore different things, you know, like try to explore the different things you like using Procreate, using fucking Photoshop, drawing mermaids, drawing fucking pirates. Like, I don't know, man. Like, you should always have your study and you should always have your fun time. And I think I really lack in the second. Like, I'm always focused on the study and I'm very little focused on the fun part, because art has never been fun for me. But I think that's actually more of a minus than a plus. DJ says no, eat the best. Okay, I don't know what that means, but thank you. So let's start out. Who's here? Let's start out with Nathan. He's actually was the last one. But let's start out with him first because he's here and he has some amazing work. So I wanted to talk about it. Actually, I wrote down if there's time I wanted to do an overpaint with Nathan, because it's such a great fucking portrait, and I feel like there's some great potential, but I don't think there's gonna be any time left because I keep talking about random shit. But Nathan, man, I'm really proud with you. Like, look at that study. Holy shit, that's beautiful. So, couple of things. Let me see what I wrote down. So I wrote down good hair, but detailed face, focus on edges and then on structure. Yeah. So Nathan actually had this question that he wrote on my email. Let me open it up and answer that first. Hey Angel, here's the study I've been working on since you gave me a critique. I know it's unresolved but incredibly swamped with college work, but I figured feedback on something is better than nothing. Correct. Also, I was wondering if you think it's worthwhile to experiment with multiple brushes given where I'm at. I want to play around with texture because I'm not sure I'd be jumping the gun and should instead just focus on more fundamental stuff. That's a great fucking question, man. That's a question that I think a lot of people don't ask themselves. And it's really important because they start doing things that they're not ready for, and I feel like they're pretty much wasting their time. So to answer your question really quick, I think you're at a pretty good place. Like, you know, you're definitely more of an intermediate. Like, you're starting to understand some things about the portrait and everything, but I think you're still a couple of steps away from using multiple textured brushes. So for now, I think what you should focus on doing is exactly what you're doing right now, which is painting a portrait with sort of a different texture brush. I think you've been using the brick in here, so maybe you can keep doing portraits like that with one or two brushes at the max, so you can kind of learn how to manipulate edges and colors. So a couple of things that I wanted to mention about this portrait. First of all, the colors are amazing. Okay, I really like the build up. You can kind of see the pink in the main color, I mean in the local color, and then the red and the orange and the blue is really good. I think the thing that's kind of lacking in this portrait, and by the way, the hair is amazing. Like, I always talk about it, it's really important to find a balance between super curly hair and small detail, and also having structure. So I feel like you kind of did that. Like, you had the structure with this rough brush strokes, and then you added the small brush strokes, so that's beautiful. But anytime you add so much detail into the hair, you need to add the same detail into the face, because right now, like, when I first seen that, like, I was like, oh my god, that hair is beautiful, even though it kind of looks like a wire. So maybe you should, you know what you should do, you should try to make your brush bigger and smaller. So if you look at my portraits, even when I'm doing the small, let me see if I can find one. Even when I'm doing these small hair things kind of going everywhere, it's still like they're getting bigger and smaller. They're never the same size, because if you keep them the same size, they really end up looking like wires. So try to make it, you know, some are big, some are small. I don't know if I'm gonna find a good example, but like, I think that one is pretty good. So see how in here with the hair, like, this one is way bigger than this one, and then there's also smaller ones. And also Nathan says that's not even the finished image. Oh, it's not? Oh really? Oh yeah. Oh shit, sorry, there was one more there was one more step. I'm sorry, I actually didn't fucking scroll through the last day. Oh, that must have that must have been good for your ego though. Like, I'm here and I'm like, hey man, your work is great, and you're like, that's not even the last image. But yeah, you did yeah, actually you did pretty good on here, where, you know, the hair doesn't even look like wire. Actually, I remember there was something, because I was like, damn, why did I think the hair is so good, but it's not that good, you know? And actually I remember this one is the last one. So yeah, pretty good job on the hair. But what I need you to focus on first of all is edges, okay? So let me open up this one because it doesn't have the distracting here. So the thing that you're kind of lacking is really that balance between the edge and really manipulating the whole form. So you're pretty good with the structure, like I can see you understand the nose and the mouth and everything, but the thing that's kind of like really lacking is you understanding the edge. So I hope there's gonna be some time so I can show you, but you know what, let me show you real quick. I don't even have to do a complete overpaint. I can just do like a really small, and I'm gonna show you with this kind of like the third step, because I don't want the hair to kind of stand in the way. But let's take for example, let's take the lip for example. So you should look at that lip, like it just looks unfinished, you know, and a lot of people kind of have a problem with that, like taking it, you know, somewhere from like a middle stage to kind of like a finished stage. Why do I have this white fucking in here? So really the way you do it is, I see you using the brick, but what you have to be doing is kind of like getting softer edges with the brick. So sometimes you know, you see me using the smudge tool, so I get the smudge and I really start softening some of the edges, you know, and I really need to look at the reference to kind of show you that effect. But look at that, like even just smoothing this area, see how much better it looks, you know. And I'm a big fan of you know, hard brush strokes and all this stuff, but really you need to know where to put them. Like for example, let me show you what I'm gonna do here on the nose. And sometimes I'm also using the what was this called though, the fucking brush, whatever the fuck it was. It's oh yeah, it's the mixer brush. So sometimes I'm using the mixer brush. It's really useful to kind of blend everything together. And even though I'm kind of against blending, what I'm really, you know, because I always say don't render and don't blend, I'm actually not against rendering. I'm against kind of like picking the fucking, what you call it, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting, the drop tool, and just kind of like pushing this color into this color. So what a lot of people think rendering is, they think, you know, you can get this color and just kind of push it into this color, and what that happens, it just kind of produces this grayish color. So I think you should really detail and you should try to focus more on the planes, but the way to do that is you keep adding information and you keep softening the information that's already there. You don't just keep adding, you don't just keep picking information from here and information from there, you know what I'm saying? So let me just show you. For example, on this lip, I'm just gonna add like a brush stroke on this side, and every time I'm adding a brush stroke in this stage, I'm always thinking like one side should be always softer than the other. So even when I add like a simple brush stroke, depending on the reference and the edge and everything, I'm just thinking where everything is supposed to be. I'm sorry, I just couldn't think for a second, but you should be thinking where is the hard side and where is the soft side, right? And I see you try to you know, detail in here, but you need to be using bigger brush strokes. Look at that, that's literally 2 brush strokes, and the cheekbone looks a lot more structured, you know what I'm saying? Like you really need a picture. That's why I always keep saying that you guys need to be doing plane studies and stuff, which I'm really proud of you, because most of you been doing them. So Christine has been doing them, Darren has been doing them. So really, that's what I explained to Darren last time, and he's got it really good. See how he really broke it down into planes. And I'm always talking about the difference between the planes in the head and the planes when you're painting. So when you're painting, you actually need to simplify the planes even more. So for example, you're gonna have a whole plane in here. Let me open up a new layer. So you're gonna have a whole plane that's gonna be on, like coming out like that, and then in here there's gonna be another plane, and then there's gonna be another plane in here, and then this whole thing is gonna be a plane. So this whole thing in here kind of needs to be rendered like the same plane, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like you added a lot more different brush strokes, that's why it looks so messy. So if you actually get this color and you make your brush bigger, you make it the same size as the plane, and you just kind of like, you know, really softly just go like that. See how much better that looks, because it actually makes it look like, you know, there's that plane there. You know, and you do the same for everywhere. You just kind of make things, you know, like you if you've seen color books and stuff, you can kind of picture how, you know, there's always these little squares and they're like just coloring here, You know, that's kind of like how you need to be looking at painting, you know. So I'll pick a color. If I don't like the color that I'm picking, I'll make it brighter or more desaturated. You see how I'm painting, you know, along the direction of the plane. So this plane, for example, in here, let me show you. This plane in here with the eyebrow is kind of like that, right? So when I'm picking the brush, I'm actually going that direction. So you can go either this way or you can go that way. But if you go that way, you know, you need this plane in here to be going that way as well. I don't know if that makes any fucking sense, but that's really how you create interesting and beautiful brush strokes, because otherwise you end up with those messy ass brush strokes. So see how much clearer that is. You know, it's just it just makes everything a lot more structural and in focus. You know, otherwise it's just everywhere. By the way, let me do a little liquify real quick, because I feel like your cheekbones are a little bit too low. Also the mouth is a little bit too big, so you can kind of make that smaller. So what I have what I have as a to Nathan as a critique is, yeah, that's the before and after the liquify, is first of all, use better line art. So I think you kind of have a problem with the line art, because I see you didn't really rely on it too much. Like, you got this and then you got that and then you completely started changing it. So the problem is, dude, she looks so weird in here. The problem is, if you don't have, and I'm not saying a super detailed line art because I'm against that either. You need like a structural line art. You know, this line art in here is kind of like, I think the eyes in there, like that's really what this line art is. It's like, I think the the eyes in there, like what real line art looks like. Let me see if Darren kind of did it better. See how Darren actually, like, he broke down the face and then he did the same breakdown with his own art. You know, he actually kind of went a little bit too over the board with the planes and stuff, but I kind of like the concept. Like, see how he's looking at the structure and he's trying to recreate it, and then when he has the recreation, he starts painting. And even him, I feel like he actually skipped one step and actually didn't draw the eyes and the nose and stuff. So he should rely more on line art. But what I've kind of been noticing lately, man, with all of my students, is you don't rely on your line art. And I understand that, because, you know, if you didn't really spend a lot of time learning it, you kind of want to get into the painting part because you think you can, you know, fix everything with the color. But the problem is, color just makes everything a lot more complicated. Like, when you introduce color and lighting, like, how much easier is it gonna be to paint an eye with black than is it to paint an eye with 50 different colors? You know what I'm saying? So my recommendation to everybody is focus more on the structural sketches and kind of getting the proportions and everything right. You know what I'm saying? Don't, like, once you're painting, you shouldn't be thinking about proportions and stuff, you know, because they kind of just get your mind, and everything is you know, it's focused on the color now. Like, you shouldn't be thinking about, you know, I mean, you should always be thinking about proportions, but your main focus shouldn't be that. So I hope that makes sense. As always, I wasted way too much time. But if you guys have any questions, man, I see nobody's writing in the chat. I hope you guys are just so mesmerized by me talking that you kind of forget to write. But if anything I'm saying is not really making any sense, please just ask me and I'm gonna try to explain it better. I'm just kind of like, you know, it's, I don't know, man. I'm still a beginner in explaining, so I don't really know how to, you know, make it look like what I'm trying to say. But I hope that makes sense. So focus more on the line art, and try painting with bigger brush strokes. You know what I explained about the planes, and do more studies and then send them to me, and I'm gonna give you more feedback. So look at that. Nathan says, I was listening intently. Okay, I'm happy, man. I'm happy. So let me see who I got next. Do I have anybody in the chat? I think I got Anna. Let's talk about Anna because I think she's here. So Anna, DJ says, I'm in awe. Oh, I'm happy, man. You know what? Let's go to DJ because I think he's pretty quick because he has only like 2 drawings. So DJ has been learning more about planes and stuff. Nathan says, that was incredibly helpful. Thank you, and thank you for critiquing me first. Oh, you're welcome, buddy, man. It's shit. It fucking warms my heart up. I want you to get better, man. I really want you to get better so I can use you for my course. But I also want you to kind of get better. Oh, thank you, Anna. She says we're listening carefully. Let me get to DJ and then we're gonna get to Anna. So DJ has been kind of learning more about the planes and the head and stuff, which I'm really happy with. But I actually kind of got some critiques for him. So DJ says no, 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 no. Dude, I always like how DJ just. What do you mean no, no? I always like how he just gives these short answers. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. What do you mean no, no? Let me see what I wrote for DJ. So I wrote transfer brush, take your time, use a razor, good planes, bright proportions. Yeah. So DJ, man, you gotta be using I don't know, write me in the chat. Are you using Procreate? Are you using Photoshop? I don't know what the fuck are you using, but you don't really have your transfer turned on. Or maybe you do, but it's really high. So when you're drawing that, you actually have these really harsh lines, and what I think happens, let me open up. So what I think happens is because you don't have the transfer. If you go to the brush settings, what happens is you have this really or maybe you have the transfer kind of like that on like 60-70%. So what happens is you're drawing with these really hard lines and you don't really correct yourself. I feel like he says Photoshop. Okay, so if you're using Photoshop, I want you to start using my sketch brush. I'm not sure, you might have been using that, but I want you to go into the transfer, make sure that everything is clear, and then just pick it from here, and it's gonna get the normal settings. So I want you to start using a brush that actually has some transfer, and the harder that you press, the harder lines that you get. Because I feel like right now you're pressing so hard, it looks like you were drawing with a fucking mouse, like what the fuck is this shit? Okay, so I want you to actually start being more gentle with the lines. So when you're drawing the line, I want you to be kind of like thinking about, is this the right line? Because right now you're drawing all these, like, I hope this is not a study of this, because it's super fucking wrong. Okay, so what I wrote down is you're doing pretty good with the planes. I see you understand the planes. You kind of understand, like for example, this one is pretty good. Even the proportions in here are pretty good. I don't understand what the fuck this is though. It looks like you were trying to draw a chimpanzee. You know what I'm saying? So he says, I'm using your sketching brush. Well, are you using a fucking mouse? Why does it look like that? Like, see, like when I'm using the sketch brush, see how soft it is? Like, see how, like I'm not pressing too hard. Like I'm never pressing on my tablet super hard. Like I'm pressing super soft so I can kind of like find out, it's like you're using the pencil. Like when you're using the pencil and you're doing the sketching, you wouldn't be pressing so hard that you're poking through the paper. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is try to use more of the transfer of the brush and figure out the proportions before you commit. So I want you to start doing more gentle sketches. For example, like you do a circle, you do a line, and then you compare it. So every time you put on a line, I want you to compare it to the reference. So you put on this line and you're like, oh, okay, it should be a little bit to the left. So if you find out it should be to the left, you actually go Control Z, or you get an eraser, you erase it and you go closer. You know what I'm saying? Don't just keep on working, because what happens is you get one mistake and you get another mistake and you start stacking them on top, you know what I'm saying? And then you end up with the fucking chimpanzee head, you know what I'm saying? So actually be more, like try to get the right proportions. And what I think is gonna help you a lot is try to do the breakdowns. I think you did it before, but see how Darren did the breakdown on top of the reference, and then just try to create the same breakdown on the side. But don't rush this, man. I feel like you've been rushing this. Try to just draw it one time. Like for example, this one is good. I don't know what happened. Oh, I get it. So this was the first try, this is the second, and this is the third. Okay, that now it makes a little bit more sense. And this one is the worst, and then this is the second worst, and then this is almost good. So okay, I guess that's kind of cool, but I don't get it why you can't just do it from your first try. Just be more focused. Just like this dude doesn't look like this dude. You know what I'm saying? every line that you're creating, if it's really, and I understand it because, you know, when I was in that stage, everything used to be so hard and everything I did was wrong. So even if you do a circle, you gotta have to look at the circle of your reference and be like, is that the same circle? If not, just sit there and control Z it and try it again. And the thing that I think beginners and intermediates don't realize is that everything fucking counts. Like, literally, if you sit there on your computer and you join a circle and you control Z and you do another circle and you control Z and you do another circle, you think you might be wasting your time, but in real life you're doing circles on top of circles. Just because you can't really see them doesn't mean that you don't get the practice. So all I'm saying is that time that you spent on creating these 3 sketches, you could have just done one good one, you know what I'm saying? DJ says, oh sure, I said I did the left with overlaying, but let's just lie. Oh, you did that. Oh, okay, now it makes more sense. Yeah, because I was like, this is way too good. Like, I don't understand how you can go from this to this in matter of minutes. Okay, so if you did this one with the overlay, that's good exercise though. So you do it with the overlay and then you hide it and then you just try to recreate it. And it's really important. That's why I always say, man, if you spend so much time developing your own style or some goofy shit like that, and you go back to, you know, drawing the planes and stuff, you realize you can't really recreate stuff. And, you know, it's cool if you always want to be creating these weirdly stylized characters. But I think if you really want to learn how to draw, because every good artist knows how to draw, even like anime artists, like they went through these steps, you should really learn how to recreate things. So I want you to actually keep doing these overlays, and on the side I want you to because see what you did. Like, for example, in here, I'm pretty sure you started with this circle and then you had this line. Like, see how many more measuring lines you have in the overlay, and then here you don't really have any measuring lines. Like, you just started doing the circle for the eye. So try to recreate the same steps. Let's say because this is really important. Let's say you're recreating the fucking photo with the overlay. You're doing a circle, you're doing a line, you're doing this line, you're doing this line, you're doing this. Okay, so you remember that. So when you start free sketching it, you remember the order that you did it in. So you're like, okay, I did a circle, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did this. And it doesn't have to be exactly in the same order, but I'm saying is you need to start recreating the same thing that you've been drawing. You can't just reinvent like new shapes and stuff. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I want you to try out this. Be more careful. As I said, turn on the transfer. Just turn on these settings. So if you go to the shape dynamics, it has to be pen pressure. That's really important. So actually your tablet has the properties of when you're pressing harder, it actually gets bigger and harder, which sounds kind of dirty. So I have the minimum diameter, and then I have the transfer on 0, and I have the minimum diameter on the shape dynamics on 0. So that means if I'm pressing super lightly, I get this super small and super light brush. If I press really hard, I get this bigger brush. So I want you to kind of start learning more about that, kind of like pressure sensitivity, and be more careful. Okay, do more sketches. I want you to do more fucking sketches and then send them next week. Okay, that's your fucking job. And then in the middle of the month we can have a call, and you know, you can kind of tell me more about your experience and we can work out some stuff. So I hope that helps. Jesus, I wasted way too much time, but I hope that was helpful. Let me see who's next though. Let me hide. Oh yeah, I said it was gonna be Anna. So let's get to Anna. Anna, I hope you're still here. DJ says, okay, I'll make my pen pressure built-in to default. Yeah, that's all the settings that I showed you, man. You really need pen pressure. And then just open, you know what you can do? You can actually open up all these keychains, key locks, whatever they're called, and then click on the 2 preset that you downloaded for me, and then it remembers everything. So just kind of click on it, but make sure that all the padlocks, that's what it's called, padlock. I remember because I listened to this song of 21 Savage, padlock. Yeah. So let's get to Anna. Anna has been doing some breakdowns of heads as well, which I'm really happy, man. I'm so happy you guys or doing the exercise I'm giving you. I can sense that you're getting better, and yeah, I'm just happy you're doing that. So Anna, man, she's doing great with the brush strokes. Like if you look at these brush strokes, look at how good this is, right? Like she's getting all the fucking nice texture, the hard edges. Man, Anna, you got some talent, man, and her gesture drawings were the best. Like she already see how it looks like, dude. She's already developed kind of like a style of her own. Like see how this looks like the character, but it also looks like a stylized version, like an anime character or something. I'm in love with that style. So you're doing great, Anna, man. I always roast my students, but you're doing pretty good. A couple of things that I wanted to mention though. Let me see what I wrote down first. So I wrote down. Oh yeah, I actually had a question. Let me answer the question first. Um, Wait, let me answer the question. Hey Angel, wait. Hey Angel, tell me how you make such delicate and clear drawings. It often happens that the artists draw their pictures for a long time. It becomes somehow tortured. All the time I want to improve something, but it turns out even worse. The eyes blurred, and I don't understand what kind of bullshit I'm creating. Okay, okay. Where is the line when you need to stop drawing and leave the picture alone? Oh, that's a great question. Here are my sketches by full reference. On the stage, I cheat a little bit. I do not draw grids from scratch, but I stupidly outline the photo. Oh, wait. Because it's damn hard to draw a head. I think let the hand get used to the right proportions. I look forward to criticism for you. Well, that's kind of like one way to go about it, but what I want you to start doing, first of all, don't use cutoff references. I talked about this on YouTube. Don't be using references that are have the head cut off or something, or the mouth, because you're not seeing the whole head and you can't really recreate the structure. So if you're using this, oh yeah, you actually got the same sketch. Like you just did the sketch on top and then you just put it on the side. Yeah, I want you to stop doing that. Even though it gives you good results, man, this is not gonna take you to a good place. You really need to start to teach your hand to do it correct. And you were right, like the hand needs to learn how to do the right proportions. So that's exactly what you do. You do it on the side as you did it, but then you try to recreate it. So I want you to get the reference. You open it 2 times. Let me do that with this. So let's say that's your reference, right? I want you to open it 2 times. So you get this reference, you put it on the side, and then this one you're using to write to do the breakdown. So you do the breakdown on this, like blah blah. You do this, and then you start fresh. And I want you to try to recreate the same thing that you drew here. So you drew this, but you're also looking at this reference, right? So you can actually kind of put them on top of each other, so it's easier. So I want you to try to learn to recreate the same sketch that you have in here. And what you can do is you can take this layer, you need a new layer, and you just pull it on the side. So you press Control and you just put it on top of this one, and you can kind of measure, like, you can actually be using like a different color. So maybe make this one green, so you can actually see. So you take the red one, you put it on top of the green one, and you're like, oh, okay, so this circle might be, and I'm not saying you should do it all the time. I'm saying you can kind of use that as like a measuring device. So you're drawing on the side, you make this, and every so often, if you're unsure of yourself, but really try to force your eye to see that. That's how you learn to draw. You should connect the hand and the eye, and you try to really teach your eye to see proportions. So you can put this on this and be like, I did pretty good here. This one should be longer. So you put it back, and don't draw on top of this. Always be drawing on the side. And that's the thing, that quote, like, you're really not cheating anybody. You're only cheating yourself, because even though it might look a better ending result, and people be like, oh my god, you're drawing so good, you're really cheating yourself, because you're spending that time getting better. You might as well be getting better with the right things. I made it before the video came out on YouTube. I'm cheating. It's cool. Actually, I'm totally for cheating. Like, I'm totally a cheater guy. But my thing is, only cheat if it's not hurting you, because this cheating right here, like, you might be getting better if you're not doing it. Like, I'm totally for cheating, like, on how to get more likes, on how to do this, or how to make more money. Like, I'm totally for that, because then you'd get more. But with cheating, with drawing, you're actually getting less, you know, because you're not getting as much skill. So you're actually getting less drawing. DJ says, so overlaying while sketching. I'm not sure what you mean by overlaying, but yeah, you get the reference, you get a start a new layer, and you start sketching on top of the reference. So I want you to break down this reference on top of it. You can actually lower a little bit of the opacity or something. Yeah, you can actually drop the opacity. But I want you to actually keep the two references right next to each other, because when you're drawing, you need to be looking at your own sketch, but you also need to be looking at the reference. So I hope that makes sense, man. I know I didn't really explain that before really too well, but I'm also gonna do a YouTube video about it. And again, I'm really kind of new to explaining stuff, so I hope this makes sense. Just make sure you ask me a lot of questions so you understand everything. But I swear this shit is gonna get you better, because you need to understand how to break down the face, and then you need to understand how to do it, you know, on your own without fucking cheating and stuff. So really try to break down the face, and then try to do it, you know, on the side. And I was really impressed by the sketches, but they turned out that they were kind of cheating and stuff. And also, for this one, for example, it's really beautifully broken down if you are painting it, right? So if you are painting this, let me answer the questions. Anna says, next time I'll do everything according to the rules, but when I did this exercise, I got a lot of pressure. I know, it's kind of hard, but that's kind of the thing. Like, if it wasn't hard, you would not be getting better, you know? So take your time. I know this is stressful, you know, I kind of spent a lot of years kind of being stressed out and stuff. But guess what? It doesn't really get better than this. Like, no matter how good you become, it's always stressful, and it's always kind of hard to get over it. So just do the best you can, and don't be worried about that much about the results. Just do the best you can, but don't rush it. You know what I'm saying? Just spend more time on thinking about how it can happen. DJ says, tracing while you sketch it about the same time, or finish the tracing then sketch. Tracing while you sketch it. Oh, no. You gotta finish this one first. Oh, I get what you mean. Yeah. So you finish the trace. But the thing is that the tracing should be super easy. Like, the tracing should be kind of like the basic things. Like the tracing should be like the main proportions. You know what I like to call the rhythm lines and the basic planes. So this is kind of. Let me show you real quick how I kind of break down this reference. And actually, I think Christine drew this reference as well, so that would be cool. It's one of my favorite references, by the way. So these are kind of like the main things that I would have for me breaking down this reference. It's kind of like a combination between the rhythm lines and the planes, and it's really I don't know, man. This is really confusing because it's kind of different for every picture. It's kind of different for every image to really understand what planes I'm talking about. But I feel like this information is so good that it can't really be taught. Like, I can teach you how to learn it, but I don't think I can actually teach you because it's not universal. The thing is, you really have to understand the structure and proportions by yourself, and then just apply what you learned. You know, I can teach you how I learned, but I can't really teach you the thing that I learned by just telling you about it. Like, you actually need to do it. So what we can do is you can do the exercise, and I can show you what you did wrong. So every time you do something, I'll be like, oh, you did this wrong, you did this right, and then hopefully you'll learn from your own experience. But I can't just be like, oh, you always do this line, because it might not be right. That's the thing about art. It's always subjective, you know. It's never only this or only that, you know. Sometimes and that's why I always feel like a hypocrite, because sometimes I'm saying this, and then other times I'm saying that. But Anna says, because when I get bad, I get upset and depressed. Oh, baby, I get upset and depressed even when I'm doing good, you know. Like, that's the life of an artist. You gotta get you have to get over it. You know, I'm always fucking depressed and sad when I'm drawing, and I think that's, I don't know. I haven't really talked to a lot of artists about that, but for me, I know it's normal. You know, and the thing that I've learned with years of practice is to judge yourself on how much effort and how much time you're investing, and not how much your results you're producing. So let's say you sit down, for example, and you draw for 3 hours and you create this, right? You create this thing for 3 hours. You should be proud of yourself because you spent those 3 hours and you did the best you can. If you sit down for like 10 minutes and you just did this, like this, you should feel bad because you didn't give it your best. So if you have 3 hours a day, just do the best you can for those 3 hours. You know, just do the best, try to learn the most, you know, and don't think that much about the results, but think about what you're learning. You know, think about, do I know now more than when I started? And obviously the answer is gonna be yes if you gave it your best. So actually judge yourself more on kind of like what you've been doing, not on what you're getting. Does that make sense? So that's kind of like pretty much the basic breakdown that I'll do for this phase. And I should really need to do a whole full tutorial on YouTube to kind of show you different references and stuff. But this is kind of like the basic breakdown that I want you guys to be doing. And then I'll start on the side, and you're trying to recreate this thing as well, right? So you try to recreate this whole breakdown. And let's say I recreated it, right? I mean, I just copy and pasted it, but let's say you did that freehand, right? Anna says, oh, that's terrible. Yeah, baby, but what's the alternative? That's why I always tell myself, what's the alternative? The alternative is to be working at a fucking supermarket, right? So it's there's not really any other option. It's kind of like, if you want to do art, you kind of have to, you know, you kind of have to be like, well, everything is gonna suck. You can only embrace it and be like, you know what, if you want to be good, you got to get through the bullshit. That's, I don't know, I hope that was the worst words of encouragement that I've ever given. But you know what, reality is fucking salty. I don't know what to say. So I want you to do this breakdown, looking at your own breakdown, looking at the reference, and then you do it freehand. You do it like that, and now after that breakdown, you try to do some of the other stuff. So let's say you have this breakdown ready. Now you try to do the hair. Now you try to do the eyes, and you're trying to get everything in place, right? So depending on what your level is and what I told you to do, you need to get this to a different stage. So if you're just beginning, you might only be doing, like DJ, you might only be doing these planes. You know, if you're kind of getting better, like Anna, I want you to actually start breaking down the eye, start breaking down the mouth, like Nathan. Try to learn more about it and try to be more precise. You know, don't rely that much on the painting. And when you're done with this and it's nowhere near done, like, you need to break down the eyebrow, you need to break down even more. And as you're working on this, I need you to start erasing some of the planes. So I don't want you in the fucking end sketch to actually have all these weird lines. So you can kind of have them, but they need to be a little bit what do you call it, a little bit not erased, but just, they shouldn't be so hard. Does that make sense? Anna says, why can't you do not go to work? Why can't you do not go to work? I'm not sure that makes any sense. Can you ask that question in a different manner, because I'm not sure I understand it? Do you mean why I don't want to go to work, or why I can't go to work? Or is this some weird question, like a rhetorical question or something? I don't know, man. I got way too much into explaining. So after you do the breakdown, you do the sketch, and after the sketch, you can actually start working beneath it to actually do some of the rendering. I think Christine did it pretty good. I don't know if she actually has the... Did Christine actually send me the breakdown? Yeah, see how she did the breakdown and then she just started painting on the bottom. But I'm gonna talk about Christine in a minute though. So that's it for Anna and DJ. Good rendering, more edges. I that's what I told about Anna. Yeah, I haven't really mentioned that though. I'm sorry, I kind of got swarmed up with the planes. So Anna, I want you to actually start breaking down the planes a little bit more and try to learn more about it. Let me kind of show you what you've been doing wrong, because I feel like I taught so much theory that I didn't really make it practical. So for example, by the way, it's really interesting to see the same reference kind of broken down with by Christine and then broken down by Anna. Let me open this up. Anna says it doesn't matter too long to explain. It doesn't matter too long to explain. Okay. I'm sorry. It's kind of hard to answer questions in open stuff. Let me open this up. So it's kind of interesting to see how the same reference was broken down by two different artists, and then kind of like how I broke it down. So for example, for Christine, I think there's not really any point in doing a breakdown in here like this plane. Like the way that I did it, it's kind of like there's this big plane in here, which is really your kind of like your jaw, the ending of your jaw. Then this plane in here, and there's gonna be a different muscle in here. And the thing is that the problem where all of this interpretation kind of gets you is that there's differences between muscles and planes. So sometimes you're seeing the muscle in here from the mouth, you're seeing it and it's gonna give off a different shadow, but it's not gonna be a different plane. Does that make sense? Like this is O in this plane and this is in this plane, but the problem is that it kind of looks super soft because the muscle and the tissue is kind of going on top of that. So for example, another plane that doesn't really make sense is this one. Like this doesn't really make sense. Like this is either supposed to be a curve kind of going in like that, or they're supposed to be like a different shape in here like a triangle, but that's gonna come off in a different lighting, and it kind of depends on the model. So for this model, it's just gonna be a simple kind of like curve going in from here, a triangle in here, then there's gonna be a plane in here kind of like that, then there's gonna be another plane in here, and then a plane in here. So I feel like beginners kind of like and it's totally normal, you know. It took me so much time to understand that. For example, this line in here doesn't really make sense because this is supposed to be one big plane, you know, like that. And then there's like another one in here, kinda, sorta, and then this one, and then this one. But the problem is it's super easy, like and it's so during, like sometimes one live stream I might mention that these are the planes, and then in the next stream I might mention like, oh, these are actually the planes, and I totally might change them because they're open to interpretation. But what I can tell you is that they're always gonna be more right planes, but they're always gonna, nah, that doesn't make sense. There's more than one right way to do it, but you can't really, I mean, you can do it. Okay, I kind of got nervous now. The thing is, you can do one plane, okay? You can do one portrait in many different types of planes, and they can all be right. But if you do some plane like that, this can never be right. You know what I'm saying? Like this can be right, this can be right, but this can never be right. Okay, let's get to the next subject. I kind of got too deep into that. I'm gonna take some time, I'm gonna think it out, and then next time I'm gonna talk about it. How about that? I'm sorry. Let me see where I got though. So I talked about Anna. Anna wants you to focus more on the edges, kind of learn more about the soft and the hard edge, and mainly I want you to start freehanding doing those. So I was really happy with your work, but now that I know that they're kind of copied and pasted, I'm not really sure how you're gonna do if you don't do that. So for next week, I want you to actually do some freehand ones and then send them to me, and then I'm gonna talk more about them. So let's see, I talked about, yeah, only Darren and Christine are left. So let's get to Christine, because I just talked about her work. So Christine actually asked me how to render more in Procreate, which I kind of mentioned that I still haven't really learned. But the problem that I see in Christine is that this step, which is the pre-last step, is a lot better than this one. And I think that's a problem that a lot of beginners and intermediates have, which is that they have, and it's the same for Anna. Oh, by the way, I totally didn't answer Anna's question. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place today, guys. Man, this is, you know how I be. Like, sometimes I'm on point, sometimes I'm all chaotic and shit. So Anna's question actually kind of brings me back to that subject, is when do you know something is done, and where is the line where you need to stop drawing and leave the picture alone? So a great thing to let me read what DJ says. To understand better, that means I should be doing the advanced side of the airhead and advanced reference plane studying. Well, we should be doing both. I want you to start doing both, but for DJ, I think you should spend more time doing only the head, like the planes of the head. And when you get more advanced, I want you to start doing the stuff that I'm talking about with the reference, because as I showed you, the thing with the references is so open to interpretation that it's just gonna get you confused. So for now, DJ, I want you to start applying these things on the planes of the head. I want you to do even more sketches, because these are kind of have some weird lines. Like, try to focus more on your lines and kind of getting everything right. You know, just do more sketches and kind of like send them to me, and I can give you more feedback. But I just don't understand what's the big difference between these and these. Like, there's just so much of a skill difference that I don't really understand where it's coming from. So I want you to do more work, and then I can critique it for you. So Anna was saying, where is really, I feel like I'm talking to 6 people at the same time. Where is that line of really stopping your rendering? So I feel like for artworks and paintings, I stop them when I feel like I can really make them any better. And that kind of like is open to interpretation as well, because sometimes you're adding detail and you're like, oh my god, it's getting so good, it's getting so good, and then you open your last step, and then your last step looks better than your current step, and you're like, what happened? And that happens all the time. So that's why it's super important to actually save your steps. So that's why I'm super happy that you guys started sending me your steps, because I really want to start critiquing you on your steps, you know, not only the finished product. So what happened with Christine is that actually this reference, that I feel like I have some things between my teeth though, whatever. I feel like this reference, this painting is a lot better than this one, because she kind of started rendering out everything, and she kind of got the forms wrong. She kind of like started adding all this unnecessary detail in the lips and the eyes. So what I want Christine to be doing is more of these work. So Christine, we're gonna work on the rendering and everything in the future, but for now I want you to start really learn more about the forms and do as many sketches like these as you can. Don't really do this stage. Like, this stage is only gonna slow you down, because it actually just makes everything worse. And for example, I feel like you're using way too small of brush strokes, and I get you, because I have the same problem in Procreate. Like, it's really hard to be doing bigger brush strokes. So actually do more of these, and then when you understand the structure, that's the thing, is when you're doing, like, let's say this is level 4, right, and this is level 5. If you don't really understand level 5 and you can't really do level 5, if you keep doing level 4, you're gonna understand level 4 so much that you're naturally gonna learn level 5. Does that make sense? Because I feel like people are constantly trying to jump, you know, to like fucking color portraits with like super hard lighting, and that's like level 17. You know, so I feel like you should master first the first levels, and then when you're happy with one level, you should always push yourself to get to the next level, but don't get super ahead of yourself, because you're just wasting time. You should really get the basics. DJ says, yeah, but there is 2 sides of the airhead, the planes of the head. Yeah, well, I mean, you should focus on both. Like, just do the sketches that you're doing right now. Just oh, I get what you mean, because on this side you were, sketch out the other side as well. What I mean is, right now you just have problems with sketching in general, not only the head. Like, you just have problems with proportions. So I want you to start doing more sketches, just so you can learn how to draw and teach your eye and hand to kind of connect to each other. So it doesn't even matter which side of the planes it is, because you're not only learning about the planes, you're also learning about how to draw in general. So yeah, that's it for Christine. I kind of want you to start doing more of these sketches. You know, don't try to render, just try to figure out where the core shadows are, and just do as many as possible so you can really and try to make the portrait as big as your reference. Like if you're keeping them side on side, see how this painting is actually much bigger than the reference. Like try to actually recreate the painting as big as the reference, right? Does that make sense? So that's it for Christine. That's it for the question of Anna. Is you should just work until you know what it is. You should render your portrait until the moment you don't really understand what you're doing. So if you're adding detail just for the sake of adding detail, you know you're doing something wrong, because you don't really understand what you're doing. Like you're just trying to make it look beautiful without understanding it. So at any point of you adding detail or rendering or something, if you don't understand what you're painting, you need to go back and really look at the reference and really do more studies and really study the anatomy to really understand what's there, and then do the rendering. Because again, you're kind of wasting your time rendering something that you don't really understand. Oh, Christine is here. Yeah, my perfectionism wants me to keep going and rendering, but I'll try to stop. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean. I definitely have that, especially with the likes and stuff. But you know, it's only gonna get worse. That's kind of like how I look at it. Like the better you're gonna get, the worse your perfectionism is gonna get. So actually try to work on it right now when it's still easy and you're still kind of like a beginner. But really at the point where you don't really understand what you're doing and you're just adding detail for the sake of adding detail, you should stop yourself and get back to the previous step. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Finally we have Darren, man. My boy Darren getting better. He actually sent me this portrait and then he was like, no bro, I actually made it better, and he sent me this. So look at this. That's great, man. That's a great overpaint. So I didn't even know Darren was doing color work. Like he's been mostly doing black and whites, and then all of a sudden he pulls up with the color. And you know what? His color is pretty strong. I kind of like it. It's still a little bit desaturated and kind of like muddy, but it's gonna get better. Something that I actually wanted to mention, really important for Darren, is when you have the background, don't try to do these abstract shapes if the background is solid. So really, if the background is solid, and even if it isn't, you should always start out with a solid background. For example, when you have this white over here, it's really throwing you off and it's kind of fucking up with your mental it's just fucking up with your vision, because this white is just making everything kind of darker. So actually, when you have the reference, let me open this up. When you start painting the portrait, really just keep the same background in here. You know, just kind of keep it like that, so you can kind of judge all of the shapes and everything. And that kind of goes back to really just working on everything at the same time when you're painting. Like don't just go over the hair and then go over the eyes and then go over the nose. Really work, let's say level 1, you do level 1 of eyes, hairs, nose, background and everything. Then you do level 2 of nose, background, eyes. Then you do level 3, and you're kind of bringing it up all at the same time. You know, like for example, this week's portrait, where did I put it though? Dude, where was I looking at? Anyway, you know what I mean. It's just kind of like building it all at the same time. It's not about just figuring out the hair and then figuring out the face. You know what I'm saying? So, Darren, you're doing great, buddy. Let me see what I wrote down because I forgot. More lines, eyelashes, practice rendering the detail, lips example. Yeah. So first of all, we need to have a call with Darren. So we're gonna let's do one on Sunday, man. I'm gonna text you later. But I want you to start doing more lines. So I'm kind of happy with your breakdown, but I don't really like that you didn't really have any details with the eyes and everything when you were doing the sketching. Like for example, let me pull out this. So for example, when you have these lines, I actually want you to push them further and actually have the eyelashes, have the iris, you know, like it's pretty great for first breakdown, but then on top you need to start drawing the actual, you know, the actual things that are gonna be in the portrait, like the eyes, the noses in here, the nostrils, the fucking nose, the corner of the lips. And I want you to, when you're painting, to be painting below this layer, because what I feel like you're doing right now, you keep painting and you're really doing, like, you do this first and then you do this, right? Wait, everything is messed up. You do this, and the problem is when you don't really have that line art, you really need to be painting your details, and that's why you end up with that kind of like an amateurish look. Because, and that's another thing I wanted to mention, is don't try to render details the same way you see them. So if you see, wait, let me close everything. Let me open up. So if you look at these lips, are these more detailed? Yeah. If you look at these lips, what you should try to do is recreate these lips with a big brush. Don't actually try to go and just do the same reflection that you see in here. What I do for these lips, let me show you. So I'd have the lips, right? I'll kind of have them like that. And then I'll have the light side of the lips, so I'll actually have a lighter color on top. I have a darker on the bottom. And actually look at them and break it down. So if I was to break down these lips, I'd have them, first of all, the whole plane of the lips, kind of need to break them down in 3, right? And then on top you have another 3. You have the corner, you have this, you have that, you have this. And then if you look really closely, there's reflective light going in here. There's a highlight in here. There's a highlight in here. There's a core shadow in here and a drop shadow. And then there's reflective light here. And then there's a shadow here, right? So when you're doing that, really just do that with the biggest brush possible. Don't try to recreate, but because what I think you did is you try to recreate the same texture just to kind of make it beautiful, and it's the same with the eyelashes. The problem is that's why you end up with the amateurish look. If you get the highlight and you just did the highlight in there and you just did it in here with the biggest brush possible, and you just understand, you know, what's happening. For example, you have the highlight, the reflective light on the bottom, you have the core shadow like that, actually not like that, you have the corner of the mouth. Really just try to understand what's there. Don't try to just render what you're seeing, you know? It's kind of like rendering what you're understanding rather than you rendering what you're seeing, you know? I feel like you have, like, every time people are doing lips, they feel like they need to be doing all these juicy things and all these juicy forms like that just to kind of pull out the texture. But the problem is, if you don't understand the lips themselves and you don't understand how light works, you know, you doing that, it's just gonna make it look amateurish. So what I want Darren to focus on, you know what, we're gonna have the call on Sunday when we're gonna talk about it more then. But yeah, I think that's for the feedback for Darren, man. Just focus more on things in general, you know. Don't get so caught up in the details. It's the same with the eyelashes. I've said this a million times. Don't try to create them individually. Try to stack them up, and then when you're doing, you do them individually, but actually make them bigger, and make a big one and then make smaller ones, and then on this side is the same, you know, and it looks a lot more natural, you know. Don't just have a bunch of eyelashes going like that, you know. Actually connect them to each other and then have one bigger one and then one smaller one. I don't know if I can find a reference in here to kind of show you. Yeah, see how I did it? It's just one big shape for the whole eyelash, and then there's smaller ones coming out of that shape, but it's coming out of the shape. It's not coming out of the, you know, just kind of like that. It's coming out of this whole big shape. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I think this is it for today, man. I'm sorry, I kind of got weird. Every time I'm talking and I kind of start saying a bunch of stuff, it just kind of fucks with my brain. And I don't know, I'm just kind of in the beginning of my teaching career. But we're here, though. We're putting in the work. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you to the 4 people that stayed and watched my ignorant ass for 1 minute and 20 minutes. 1 minute. 1 hour and 20 minutes. I hope it was useful. Please send me your work for more critique. The problem is I feel like I'm always repeating the same stuff, and obviously I'm not, because your guys have different problems and you guys kind of like understand different things. So it's gonna take me a while to try to explain what I mean by all of my different goofy theories, but I hope I'll be helpful. So send me more work for critique, angelganef6@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna be doing a live stream on Twitch this Thursday, so I hope you join as well. And I hope you have a great day, man. I love you. Thank you for the support, and talk to you next week, man. Bye bye.